2 years out. And here's the thing about where you're standing right now. You've done a mountain of good work. Foundation poured, tax strategy in motion, Social Security mapped, the defense built. But I'm gonna be straight with you. Every bit of that still lives on paper. It's a plan. And year 2 is the year the plan has to climb down off the spreadsheet and start depositing real money into a real checking account. That climb down is exactly where people discover that what balanced perfectly in a projection behaves very differently inside an actual month. Here's the number that tells the story. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute's 2024 Spending in Retirement Survey, 54% of retirees said they were surprised by how much it costs to retire. And 31% of current retirees said their spending was higher than they could afford in 2024. That's up from 17% in 2020. And a third of retirees right now are spending beyond their means. Not because they didn't plan, but because the plan wasn't specific enough about what month-by-month reality would actually look like. Year 2 is when you close that gap before it turns into your life. Today, I'm going to show you how the paycheck actually gets built, and it comes down to 3 moves. Finding the real number you'll live on, deciding exactly where every dollar of it comes from, and then making the whole thing run without you babysitting it every April. Let's get into it. I'm Will Hoffman, founder and president of Hoffman Wealth Management, and this is Pre-Retirement Navigated. One quick placement before we dig in. Year 5 was the foundation, year 4 was the tax strategy, year 3 was defense, Social Security, and sequence risk. Every one of those years you were building a component. Year 2 is still all of those components getting wired together into something that actually runs on its own, a paycheck, a figure that lands in your account every month with the same boring reliability as a direct deposit you've lived on for 30 years. Manufacturing that kind of reliability is a bigger job than most people expect. So let's break it into 3 moves. The first move in year 2 is to go find the real number. And I mean the real one, not the tidy annual figure you've been carrying around in your head. Here's the trouble with that tidy figure. It's an average. You took a year of spending and smeared it evenly across 12 equal months. But real life does not spend evenly. Real life spends in lumps. So, the exercise I put in front of every client at this stage is what I call a 24-month map. Not a yearly budget sliced into 12 identical pieces, an actual dollar figure for every category in every individual month. 2 full years of them laid out end to end. The reason it's 2 years and not 1 comes down to this. 1 year can still hide a lump behind an average. 2 years drags that lump into the open as a visible repeating pattern. And a pattern is something you can plan around. Let me show you what surfaces the second you actually do this. January, the property tax bill lands. March, the quarterly estimate comes due. June, that trip you've been promising yourself, $9,000, all in 1 month. October, the homeowner's policy renews. And December, holiday spending stacked right on top of the car registration. Not one of those is a shock. You knew every single one was coming, but blended across 12 months, they disappear into a smooth, flat line. And then they show up all at once in a month with no room for them. Laid out across 24 columns instead, they turn into what I call the red months. The months where spending punches above the income and something has to feed the difference. Those red months are the ones that need a named source. Not the portfolio will handle it somehow, a specific account, specific amount, decided now, well in advance. Here's why this matters so much. According to EBRI's 2024 Spending in Retirement Survey, 36% of current retirees have experienced unexpected spending needs since retiring. And a separate study found that the average retired household spends approximately $7,100 a year on unexpected costs. Broken into 3 categories, roughly $3,300 in rainy day, home, and car expenses, $4,100 in out-of-pocket healthcare and dental costs, and $5,700 in family-related financial needs. These are not unpredictable, they're just irregular. And irregular expenses don't live in annual averages, they live in specific months. The 24-month map finds them before they find you. The second movement is to decide where every dollar comes from. Once you know the real number and you can see the red months, the second move answers a completely different question. When a dollar has to come out of your savings to fill one of those months, which door does it walk through? Because the day you retire, you quietly get handed a job you never applied for. You become your own payroll department. Nobody's routing the money for you anymore. And it turns out the door you pick changes what the dollar actually costs you. Here's the cleanest way I can show it. Say a given month needs $3,200 beyond what your guaranteed income already covers. The lazy version of this is a shrug, and I'll just pull it from investments. But watch what the word investments quietly hides. $3,200 out of a traditional IRA is ordinary income taxed at your highest rate. That same $3,200 out of a taxable brokerage account is a capital gain, taxed at a gentler rate. And $3,200 out of a Roth is taxed at nothing at all. Identical amount landing in your checking account, 3 completely different tax bills, decided by nothing except which door you sent it through. Now multiply that one choice across dozens of months and a couple of decades, and it becomes the whole difference between a paycheck you engineered on purpose and a tax outcome that simply happened to you. Choosing that door deliberately is also how you stay inside the brackets you want, how you keep from tripping the Medicare IRMA thresholds we walked through back in year 4, and how you leave the tax-free Roth money sitting untouched until it's doing its most valuable work later. In retirement, you don't just decide how much you withdraw, you decide which door every time. That's the game. Now, one more thing about where the money comes from, because if all of it comes out of all of the same place, you've quietly built something very fragile. A paycheck that leans entirely on a single source is one bad year away from a real problem. So the target here is a paycheck that stands on more than one leg. And the clearest way to see that is to sort your income into 2 honest kinds. The first kind is the income that simply shows up whether you lift a finger or not. Social Security, a pension if you're lucky enough to have one. It arrives on schedule, completely indifferent to whatever the stock market did that week. Call that your bedrock. The second kind is the income you have to actively produce and steer. These are the portfolio withdrawals we were just talking about, plus any earned income if you're consulting or working part-time in the early years. This is the part that takes real decisions. This is the part you're governing month by month. And then there's a third thing that isn't income at all. It's the slack in your discretionary spending that you can ease off temporarily when a season turns rough. Doesn't produce a dollar, it's a shock absorber. And when the governed income hits a hard year, the give is what lets you gently pull back for a while instead of selling investments into a down market to keep the lights on. Almost nobody names this as part of their income plan. It's one of the most powerful parts of it though, because it's what makes the whole machine resilient without you having to stuff a single extra dollar into your portfolio. Why does building it this way matter? Because the research is clear that multiple income sources change the retirement experience, not just the finances. The Federal Reserve's 2024 report on the economic well-being of U.S. households found that retirees with income from employment, pensions, or investments were doing substantially better, both financially and in reported well-being, than those relying solely on Social Security or other public income. And a 2024 Gallup poll found that 53% of non-retired Americans expect to live comfortably in retirement, but 80% of already retired Americans actually do. The experience tends to beat the expectation, and the difference is structure. Income drawn on purpose from more than one place. Movement number 3 is to make it run without you. The third move is about making this paycheck run on its own, the way your salary always did. Because for 30 years, an entire machine has been humming quietly in the background on your behalf. And most people never notice it until the day it switches off. Think about what your employer actually pulled off every single payday. Before the money ever reached your hands, they carved out the taxes and shipped them to the government for you. You never touched it, never thought about it. April was basically a formality. You filed, maybe you got a little bit back, and moved on with your life. The morning you retire, that machine shuts off completely. No employer, nobody withholding anything on your behalf. The IRS has not lost interest in you, not for 1 second. It still wants its share of your Social Security, your IRA withdrawals, your pension, your capital gains, your interest. They want all of it. The only thing that's changed is now you are the one who has to make it happen. You got promoted to your own withholding department, and nobody sent you the memo. And here's what happens when people don't set this up. IRS data shows that underpayment penalty assessments on filers earning between $200,000 and $500,000, which includes a significant portion of pre-retirees in this audience, totaled approximately $1.3 billion for tax year 2024 alone. These are not people who didn't pay their taxes. These are people who paid them at the wrong time or in the wrong amounts and got hit with underpayment penalties as a result. For retirees specifically, the risk is especially high in year one, when income sources and amounts are different from everything the prior year's return was based on. The good news is this one is genuinely simple to solve once you know it's yours to solve. You can have taxes withheld straight from your Social Security payments. You can set withholding on your IRA and pension distributions. You can send it in quarterly estimates. The exact mechanism matters far less than the principle underneath it. The tax gets paid steadily all year long instead of ambushing you in one lump sum every April. Year two is when you figure out how that works for your specific mix of income and get it wired up and running before day one. And the last piece of making it run itself, clear the junk out of the machine before you ever switch it on. A long career leaves debris behind. An old 401k here, a forgotten one from 2 employers ago, 3 IRAs sitting at different custodians, a slug of company stock, a couple of stray brokerage accounts nobody's looked at in years. Every one of those is a part the machine has to track, and every extra part is one more thing that can jam at the worst possible moment. I want to be careful about how I say this because it isn't about shuffling money around to feel productive. It's about what you'll actually have to operate once you're living off this thing every day. Fewer accounts means you can take in your whole financial picture in a single glance instead of reassembling it from 5 statements. It often means better pricing because one consolidated balance can reach levels a scattered pile of small accounts never will. And it means the day-to-day of retirement is something you can run in your head, not something that needs a spreadsheet just to remember where everything lives. Do this now, 2 years out, while it's an afternoon's project and you've still got the focus for it. Every bit of administrative friction gets heavier the moment you retire. Let's cross the finish line light. Here's the bottom line. When this year is done, you should be able to point at month 1 of your retirement and describe exactly how it works, what the number is, which door each dollar walks through, what it costs you in tax, and how the 23 months after it play out from there. That level of specificity is what quietly turns dread into confidence, and it is completely available to anyone willing to do the work with 2 years still on the clock. That's the whole point of this year. If today put a question mark next to your own year 2, what your cash flow actually looks like month by month, whether your income is engineered or just hoped for, or whether you've thought through the tax withholding piece at all, here are 2 ways to take the next step. First, grab our free retirement readiness checklist. It's the same framework we open every client relationship with. It'll lay out where you stand across all 5 years, what's handled, what's still loose, and what deserves your attention first. The link is right under this video in the show notes. Second, book a no-cost discovery call with our office. This isn't a sales pitch. It's a real conversation about your situation, your income sources, your cash flow gaps, your account structure, your tax setup, and an honest read on whether we are the right people to build this with you. Either way, the next move belongs to you. I'm Will Hoffman. This is Pre-Retirement Navigated, and I look forward to seeing you on next week's episode.